Mim listened to what James said. He was quiet, likely running the strategy through his mind and comparing it to his own experience as an adventurer. Seeing Mim thinking, James was a little nervous. He didn't want Mim to shoot down the idea and say that it wasn't a good one. Though James didn't have as much experience, he still felt like what he suggested was a good strategy to take on the Forest Wolves. He hoped that Mim would agree. After thinking of the strategy, he looked at James. We'll go with your strategy, but keep in mind that if you're unable to finish off the Forest Wolf, you should run back towards us. We'll reunite with Celine and then make our way back to the camp. His voice stressed how important it was for James to understand not to put himself in danger. James merely nodded his head to indicate he understood that it wasn't worth it to take high risks. Mim looked at James longer to make sure that James understood how serious the situation was. Feeling that James comprehended his words, Mim grabbed his crossbow. Seeing Mim grab his weapon, Maya pulled out an arrow and knocked it to her bow. After you engage with your target, we'll attack the other two, Mim said to James. He then looked to Maya. You'll attack the one furthest from us, since your bow is more accurate than my crossbow when distance is involved. Understood, Maya said as she prepared herself to fire the arrow at the Forest Wolf. But now, they were just waiting on James to attack the one wolf. James looked at Mim and Maya before dashing towards the Forest Wolf that was still busy eating the deer on the ground. Hopefully, it doesn't notice me until I reach it, James thought to himself as he pulled out the two daggers on his waist. With his weapons in his hands, he felt a little better. He was also confident that the wolf wouldn't be an issue and that he could handle the monster despite Mim's concern. As he raced towards where the three wolves were located, his presence was sensed by the wolves. James didn't know whether it was due to smelling his scent or sensing his presence, but the monsters became alert. The wolf that was eating the deer lifted its head to look around. Seeing James racing towards it, the wolf snarled threateningly. Its fangs were seen, warning James of what would happen if he got any closer. A few feet away from the monster, James heard the yelps from the other two wolves. I guess Mim and Maya fired the arrows, James said to himself. The Forest Wolf in front of James looked at what happened to its companions. It was startled and confused for a moment, not having any idea of what just occurred and why the other two were now injured. Two more arrows struck each of the two wolves. Taking advantage of his target's confusion, James slashed at the monster. As if sensing what was happening, the wolf leapt to the side, barely dodging a fatal injury from James. James's eyes widened in surprise at how the monster avoided being killed by him. He didn't anticipate the move. Feeling the wound on his neck, the wolf snarled at James. It then crouched and lunged at the being that injured him. Skidding to a halt, James raised both daggers in time to block the attack. His arms became heavy as he held back the monster. You're a heavy one, aren't you? James clenched his teeth.